Hello, is it Mr. Hart?
Yes.
It's Andrew Pickup from Merton Council.
Okay, right. What investigation are you going to do? What investigation are you doing? I don't understand how you can be investigating something when you've taken no action. When are you coming?
To do what?
You keep talking about investigating, but things still been under investigation. You haven't been here since you last came 2 weeks ago. Why are you going to arrange an appointment with us to bring your equipment so you can actually investigate?
To do what? Why would you want me to bring my equipment to your property?
Because you keep talking about things being investigated and you haven't actually investigated anything yet. When the last time you came here,
How do you know that?
because you haven't been here. You literally haven't been here, you haven't brought your equipment, you've done no investigation, so in order to progress these complaints you have to investigate.
I am investigating the complaints.
Just receiving nuisance complaints from a guy who's a proven liar doesn't
You're not letting me
qualify.
finish my sentence. And if you just take it slowly, we'll discuss it. The way we investigate complaints is that I will make some visits to the complainant's property and make assessments of the noise that's being emitted from one property to another. And that's the investigation process for statutory nuisance. If we we don't go and investigate the source of the noise that could potentially, and then assess the nuisance from where the source is. We assess nuisance from the point of the receipt of the noise.
Well, that doesn't make any bit of sense because the noise could be generated from the property you are in, which is what we contend is happening. Isn't it more logical to actually...
So you think that the noise from the pest control devices is being emitted from the neighbouring property?
No, I do not say that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you're going to a property and analysing a noise, and your assumption is it is coming from a neighbouring property. No one has yet verified that these noises are associated in any way, shape or form with our equipment which we have to prevent damage by property. So you've gone into his house and measured the noise. There's no proof that's coming from anywhere else apart from his property. You've only measured it in his property, but isn't it more logical to investigate the supposed source?
No.
That doesn't make any sense.
Pardon?
That doesn't make any sense.
That's just your opinion.
No, logically, that's not how sound works. It doesn't make any sense. Well, if you're going to investigate this, are you not going to come here and try and work out what is causing this noise? So you can once and for all rule out the fact that it is us, because it is not. If you keep going to his property and hearing noises, it's coming from his property.
I understand the police visited on Friday.
Why do you understand that? Where did you get that information?
Because that's what I was told.
But told by who?
A colleague at the council.
I don't see what those things have to do with a noise complaint, but...
Well, the police officer at the time of the visit said something that she was able to hear the noise from the devices that you have.
Again, as I said to her on video, she made no assessment. She's not trained, has no qualifications to determine what or is not happening. I demonstrated to her these devices are non-functional. The reason for the police visit, or as long as you're concerned, is property damage to those devices, so they're no longer functional. It was physically impossible for her to hear anything. What she heard was coming from somewhere else, because it could not have been coming from these devices because Jack has destroyed them. That is why the police visited, because he has damaged my devices and stolen others. So how can a device which he has stolen make any noise in my property? If he's stolen the device, it's making a noise in his property. Okay? This is just logically simple.
Right, noise is coming from your neighbour's property.
No, I'm not going down that line. You have demonstrated evidence in a bar chart demonstrating a noise coming from their property. It is logically, therefore, sensible to assume that noise is coming from their property. That's what your evidence has shown.
Could you just repeat that so we can go over it?
You have provided us a little bar chart demonstrating a noise picked up in their property. That is your evidence. You have said to us a noise is happening in their property. I have demonstrated to the police that the devices were here are non-functional because Jack has broken them or stolen others. Okay? So, the report you had from other officers is based on wrong information because those devices are physically not capable of working because they have been destroyed or stolen. Just because someone tells you something doesn't mean it means anything. Again, that's not investigating. You can't just use hearsay and conjecture.
I'm not using hearsay because I was there.
You weren't here.
When
You were not here when the officers were here. What?
No.
You are using the report.
I have not. I didn't say I was there when the officers were there. Again, you've not let me finish my sentence. I was there when I did the measurement and heard the noise.
Yes, you heard a noise. You have not yet verified that that noise has anything to do with us.
Yeah, and it was from one of the devices at the front of your property.
Yeah, so you have not yet demonstrated that. You have said these things and not provided any evidence of these things. Also, at your last visit, you and Jack trespassed onto my property while Jack interfered with things in there which he told you were ultrasonic. Okay, and he captured 7 of them.
When did I trespass onto your property?
After you spoke to us, you went to go speak to Jack. I have a videotape of you and him talking at the border. Jack reaches over and picks up a few things, including a container of pesticide, which you guys play with as if it's water, and he points at devices to you, and he thinks they're ultrasonic. And he says there's 7 of them in total, and there aren't. We told you there are 4 there, 2 functional. The other 2 he's already destroyed. The things he was pointing out to you were either moisture sensors or anti-slug devices, not ultrasonic. Okay, so everything he told you is basically a lie. Yet you just believe everything he says at face value. That is not investigating. Okay, those devices are not even ultrasonic.
Just because I've been told something, you've assumed that I believe everything that I've been told.
Well, yes, because you're still investigating something
I've
which...
made my own mind up as to what's happening.
Did you ask us what those other devices were for? No, you didn't. You just went away.
I'm
just
concerned about the audible sounds that are coming from your property.
Nobody else, including his own toddler, has demonstrated any signs of distress. The neighbour on the other side has never complained of any noises. The neighbour opposite has never complained of any noises. The only person who has complained is someone who has got a proven history of harassment and antisocial behaviour against me. That is evidence that should not be taken at face value and should be verified. You did not take any steps to verify what Jack told you was true. All you had to do was come back round while you were there and say, what are those devices? We would have told you. And I told you something, so of course we didn't mention them.
But then, if they clearly weren't part of the complaint.
They were part of the complaint because Jack pointed out to you he's got all these devices there. And you pick one up, and you pick one up in a container of pesticide. He thought it was water, it wasn't.
Well, no, I never picked anything up.
No, I said Jack picked it up. You encouraged him to trespass on our property. You made no attempt to stop him doing that, which makes you complicit.
I never encouraged him to trespass on.
You didn't stop him reaching over the fence and interfering with my equipment. That makes you complicit.
It's his property.
It's not his property. He reached over into my property and interfered with my equipment while you were standing there.
The property where I was his property.
You were standing next to him as he reached over my property line and interfered with my equipment. You made no attempt to stop him. That makes you complicit in that activity. I've got you camera doing it. Don't deny it. I mean, this is what happens.
You may well have cameras pointing, recording sound, sending the videos off to the police. That's up to you.
There are clear signs all around my properties saying audio and video has been taken and recorded for purposes of crime prevention. By staying here, you agree to be recorded. Not a problem. That's fine. But the point is, you made no attempt to actually investigate what those devices were.
You're recording people. Are you not recording people in other properties?
I was recording activity interfering with my property, which makes it okay because this is criminal activity. You're allowed to record criminal activity no matter where it is. Okay? That's been proven in case law. Well, you are. You brought it up, so I'm telling you about it. But the point is, you've been given false information, made no attempt to verify what he was telling you.
I get given false information all the time.
Yeah, you made no attempt to verify it. How do you know?
The complaint about your pest devices is still under investigation.
How are you investigating it?
That is a fact.
We are trying to help you investigate this, and all you're doing is...
Okay, right. So what do you want to happen?
I've told you, the very first thing I said to you, which you refused to do, is bring your equipment here and we'll test everything and verify that nothing we're doing is causing a nuisance. Whereas the person complaining is actually causing a deliberate antisocial nuisance. That is far more important than what this bloody thing is. Let's just get this thing out of the way so we can focus on that. Leaving your home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday after turning on a loud stereo and coming back at 6:15 is antisocial.
So if I come to your property and is that inside or out?
Yes.
In the human audible range, noise from your pest devices, you'll switch them off then.
No, I will. No. That is the first part of the investigation.
Because then they wouldn't be ultrasonic, would they? If they're in the audible hearing range.
Just because a noise has been emitted does not make it a nuisance. Okay, that's a different question. But yes, first of all, we need to establish whether or not there is an audible noise associated with our equipment. Then we can work on what is actually the problem. My contention is there is no problem, it is just another way to harass us. But the first thing we need to do, in order to establish whether this is true or not, is just first analyse things. Gather data, scientific method. But no one else has complained. Children play outside our house, his own child plays outside our house and trespasses in front of a fence and is not annoyed by them. So if a child is not annoyed by them, who's got the best hearing possible, I don't see how this could be a problem. It's just a nuisance complaint.
I don't think the visit would progress things, if I'm honest. I can measure devices in neighbouring properties.
Right, so what is to stop a device in a neighbouring property causing a problem? How are you going to rule that out?
So I missed the first part of the question.
If you go to a neighbouring property and you measure a noise inside the neighbouring property, how do you verify the noise is not coming from inside the neighbouring property?
Because I'm normally quite good at determining where the sources are coming from.
Well, so far you've failed completely to determine which devices we have are working, so I don't find that credible.
Well,
you haven't been able to...
Sometimes when you're a little bit away from these sorts of devices, and there's various devices dotted around, and they go on for short duration, it can be quite difficult to actually pinpoint the specific device, but you generally get that it's coming from one of them in that direction, and they'll be associated with your property.
So, you're not going to actually investigate likely sources, you're just going to look at people who have a proven history of deception and deceit and use that as your primary evidence against us. That's what you're saying. You're refusing to come here and analyse what's actually happening. You fail to identify, as yet, which devices are making any noise, which means without your equipment that cannot be used as evidence.
Under the legislation, I don't need to take noise measurements.
Just because legislation says you don't have to doesn't mean it's not reasonable.
There's no specific requirement in the Environmental Protection Act for me to undertake noise monitoring with some level.
Yes, there is. So it's under section 7. Whatever it is. Anyway, I've got all this on.
Under section or what?
1.7. Well, I think it's 1.7. I think it's paragraph 4 actually. I have to go and look it up again. But if there is a dispute whereby a complaint has been made and that complaint has been disputed, then you are required to take additional measures, including and not limited to investigation using monitored equipment over a period of time. And it's, whatever. Anyway, so that's that complaint. You're not going to come here and analyse stuff. Fine. What about this other problem?
I'll be expecting an email with all this on. The last emails that I've received, there's plenty of factual inaccuracy on those on our discussion. So if you're going to do the same, could you please make sure that it is accurate?
What is inaccurate? Where? What?
Some of the emails that I've previously received are full of inaccurate comments.
What do you? That doesn't help me. What do you mean? What is inaccurate?
Well, some of the statements.
What statements?
In the previous email.
What statements are inaccurate? If you tell me what they are, we can talk about it. I don't understand which statements.
I'll have to go back.
Yes, you
I'll
will.
have to go back to find them because I've got so many emails that it'll be difficult right now to find.
If you're saying there are inaccuracies in my emails, I will need you to then reply to that with a list of all the inaccuracies so I can understand what it is you're talking about. But you can't just claim they're inaccurate. That doesn't make any sense.
Right, no, okay, listen, I'm going to have to leave it because I have not got, I can't spend all day on neighbour.
Yeah. So, and the reason why I phoned was to talk about the complaint I've made against him. He deliberately went out on a Sunday afternoon with his family after turning up in a loud stereo, coming back at 6:15.
And I've asked you to fill out a diary sheet over the next 2 weeks.
I've already filled out a diary sheet and I've started filling out.
No. I don't accept the complaint going back 15 months as a completed diary sheet.
Oh no, it is.
I want 2 weeks going forward.
Right, first of all, none of those complaints I put in that form have been investigated. The reason why I sent you that is to demonstrate.
I wasn't the investigating officer with regards to those complaints.
Well, no one investigated them. Anyway.
They weren't assigned to me.
Well, look at your records, you'll see. Now, the point about sending that diary was to demonstrate a prolonged activity over a long period of time.
I understand that there's been an ongoing dispute between you both, going back many months.
No, it's not an ongoing dispute. That's a list of continuous noise complaints, disturbances, and other antisocial problems which have yet to be investigated. The reason for sending you that is to demonstrate the continuous behaviour. I intend to send you stuff as it happens moving forwards, but it is important for you to understand that there is a long history of noise complaints which have not been investigated, which he is the cause of. Is it unacceptable to leave your house on a Sunday afternoon after turning the loud stereo on and coming back at 6:15? That is not an accident, but it's a premeditated act of harassment.
Yeah, well, I didn't hear that.
I've got a video. I sent you a video. I literally sent you a link to the video. Show them leave. So the noise starts and noise finish. It was a link.
it may be contrary to our IT policy.
Well, the first item on the list I sent you yesterday was about a man. Approximately 3:32 to about 6:48 or something like that. Now stereo, almost 4 hours. But isn't...
15:30 to 18:43.
Yeah, that sounds about right, actually, yeah. So, there's not an accident, it's not normal behaviour, it's not anything necessary. Our activities are necessary to prevent damage by property by pests, which he is actually inviting into our property. And that is an act of antisocial behaviour.
But you did say, when I visited, I think it was on the 8th, that you had a mouse cornered in your house because of the use of these devices.
Yes.
Whatever happened to that mouse?
In a day later, that one was found dead, desiccated. Since then, we've had 2 more rats come in from the nature reserve. We've had more activity in the nature reserve since he was fly tipped in the nature reserve outside our property with household waste. Ever since that happened, we've had increased activity.
It's quite clear then that these pest control devices aren't working, isn't it?
No, they are working, because instead of getting 2, we would have 50 or 20. They are working, it's just on occasion they get cornered. It's a different problem completely. And remember, they're not working right now because Jack has destroyed them, which is why you can't hear anything, because they're not working. They do work if they're allowed to work, but Jack has destroyed them.
You've now got no audible deterrents at your property.
We have one left out the front that still works, and we don't have one out the back, which will prevent the rats. That one will stop the foxes, but not the rats.
So there's no audible device at the back.
Well, there shouldn't be, but again, he's broken so many things, God knows what's going on. I know he's stolen one of them, so maybe that's working somewhere else, I don't know.
So you've got one at the front.
There's physically 4 items there, only one of them actually works, because it's damaged the other 3.
Okay. Well, we're working on that. So you've got one at the front, one at the back. What about the 2 inside? Have you switched those off?
No, they're still working.
Right.
Those are inside the property. Outside the property, we have one at the front, one at the back. We still have the 2 inside the property.
Well, can you not switch the one that's near sort of the loft area off?
We don't have one in the loft area.
Right, okay.
Where do you get that information from? We've got rat poison up there. Because we had a rat there coming from Jack's property through a hole in the brickwork.
I just assumed the one was sort of up in that area because you had one down near the front door.
Why would you assume that? No. We've got nothing in the loft that can make any noises. Well, we actually have a carbon monoxide detector up there, but that doesn't make any noise until something bad happens. But there are no alarms, there are no things up there, apart from rat poison, that should make any noises, that can do anything. I mean, they've made several funny complaints about alarms in our loft to the police, which is really weird. Alarms. Who put an alarm with a loft? What was that for?
Well, it's not unheard of because, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, why would someone have an alarm with a loft? Unless it's something like a carbon monoxide detector, and that's reasonable. But what else would you put in a loft? Why? What would be the purpose of that?
Well, some people may put in an ultra high frequency pest deterrent to stop squirrels getting in.
Yeah, but that's not an alarm, is it? But that's not an alarm. That is a.
Perhaps I chose the wrong word.
Yes. Yeah, the complaint made against us several times now has been about alarms in our loft going off continuously. which we do not have.
Perhaps it's the wrong use of the word.
No, the complaints made against us has been specifically about alarms in our loft going off continuously. And you've raised the same basic point, and there is nothing up there that can do that, apart from a carbon monoxide detector, which would only go off if there's carbon monoxide up there, which has never happened yet. And the reason why that's up there, by the way, is because there was a time before we installed a fan where we were being poisoned by their dirty boiler, where we would be getting high levels of carbon monoxide in every room in our house. That is why that is up there. Again, something they have done, which we have responded to in order to maintain the safety of our property. All these things we have here are done actually because they have caused these problems to happen, and we are taking reasonable care to safeguard our property after those events. Anyway, turning on the stereo, leaving your home, coming back 4 hours later is not socially acceptable. There's no reason for it. It cannot be explained by any rational thought process. Whereas the things we have are here for a deliberate purpose in order to protect our property from damage by pests, which we have a duty to do under the law. It is the only thing we have found which has been anywhere near effective. That in combination with poison. These things do work. When we did not have any of them, we had more rats.
Why do other people not feel the need to have these modern pest detectors who live close by to you?
I don't know what other people have or don't have. We don't know what other people do or don't have. That's the point. You can't hear these things. You can't know. Whatever it is.
I can hear them.
You can hear something. You can't hear. You've not yet demonstrated to me. You can actually hear these things.
Well, the police officer said she could hear.
She said she could hear something, and as I explained to you, the thing she thought she could hear was physically broken. It had no battery power. Its wires were disconnected. It was incapable of making any noise whatsoever. She heard something else. I told you exactly what it was. I showed her. She goes, oh no, it's that device, it's that device. And it wasn't. It couldn't have been. It physically was impossible. You have not been here to see that. You weren't here. But she is not telling you an accurate piece of information because she's just made an assumption. Like everyone, you're making assumptions, she's making assumptions. These things are not what you think they are, and you're just equating some other event to these things because it's convenient, I imagine. But these devices physically cannot do the things you say they're doing. The one that she was talking about specifically cannot. It's physically broken because Jack broke it. He's broken most of them, i.e. criminal damage.
She's been charged with that, you know?
We're in the progress of doing that, hopefully. But I've got a crime report, all of that. I've got crime numbers and stuff. I've got all the video, they're all looking at it. But it's undeniable. Literally, I've got a video of him leaning over a 6-foot fence, reaching down over our fence, taking property from a shelf adjacent to the fence, and then smashing other property using a stick. You know, literally on video. There's nothing to dispute. This is the kind of person that you're taking your information from at face value. Okay, just investigate.
I take the information at face value.
Well, why? Why do that?
Well, because you don't. Well, do you not want me to take your information at face value?
I want you to investigate. I want you to investigate properly.
Exactly. So I take all the information at face value.
Yes, and you haven't.
And then
You have refused. You have refused.
No.
I have you on tape refusing to come here and test our equipment. You said it wasn't necessary. Now, because you said it's not necessary, therefore you are accepting.
So you're now recording me.
I record everything all the time because of what's going on around here.
So you're now recording me, okay.
I record everything because people lie to me and people say stupid things. And I need evidence of these stupid things so I can tell other people what's going on. Everything is recorded in this property, as you saw on the signs.
You never told me you were recording this conversation.
There is a sign. You've seen the signs outside my property. It says very clearly, video and audio recording is in progress.
Just so you know, you didn't tell me that you're recording this conversation.
First of all, there's no statutory requirement for me to do so. It is not an offence to record something about their knowledge or consent. It is not a two-party state or anything like that. And you've seen the signs outside my property. They say clearly audio and video. But signs outside my property saying, oh, wasn't it my fault you didn't read the signs? There are clear signs saying audio and visual recording is in progress in this property for the purposes of preventing the detection of crime and antisocial behaviour.
Right. So what's this conversation doing to prevent crime? Why are you recording this conversation?
Because I record everything. Because I don't know. I've no requirement to do so. I'm not a business. Okay, this isn't my own home. You've seen the signs outside my own home. Okay, I have a right to do this, and you have no right to complain. I need to be able to take notes of various things. The reason why I record everything is so I can go back and take the appropriate notes. Because I'm on high medication, I can't remember very much anymore, so it is necessary for me to function. That is why I'm recording everything. Okay?
Well,
Perfectly legitimate, perfectly reasonable.
Given that you're on a high dose of medication, I wouldn't want to cause any further distress, so I'd perhaps suggest we end the conversation now.
Yeah, can we please have an action? Can we do something about this? I'm trying my best to find a way to cooperate with this investigation, but you're not making it easy for me. The only thing I can suggest is making my equipment.
So what is it you want to happen? I'm trying to help you, don't get me wrong. I'm trying to get to the bottom of both of it. So, you and your neighbour can live side by side without your neighbour contacting me every day.
Yeah, that's never going to happen. Yeah, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen because we have to respond to these launches allegations. So we have to waste your time. We don't want to. I don't want to waste your time. I really don't. But we have to respond to these things because if we don't, we'll snowball out of control and eventually we'll get a CC jail. Something stupid happen. I don't know. But we have to respond to these things. The only way I can think of to prove one way or the other what is actually happening with evidence is for you to come here and look at everything. That's all I can think of. I don't see how measuring what's happening in his home actually helps.
That's with statutory. Let me explain without you interrupting.
Okay.
With statutory nuisance, how we assess for a statutory nuisance, we will go to a complainant's property, make an assessment from there, and then we will decide if the noise coming from the alleged offending property is likely to amount to a statutory nuisance.
Yes, that is level 1. And when there is a dispute, after that assessment is made, level 2 takes over. Level 2 can require long-term audio meter readings, for example, and other statutory things you're allowed to do in order to determine the source of the nuisance. Once a dispute has been raised.
You are allowed to do various things that you can and can't do, but if after the visit, you've established that there is a nuisance, then we would serve a legal notice. Similarly, in your case, if we were to be monitoring at your property where there was amplified music being played from your neighbour, we would take the same course of action without the need for long-term noise monitoring.
Right, I provided you evidence directly of that offence. So
Yes,
does that mean...
You've provided me with a statement to say that there was amplified music.
I provided you with a video of the event.
I can't access that video.
That's not my fault. I mean, how can I give it to you, Ben? Come here and I'll give you a memory stick, Ben. I mean, if you can't get it by YouTube, I can give you the memory stick. You can put it to the computer and get the video that way. But that event happened on Sunday. It was very intrusive, very annoying, and done deliberately as an act of harassment. If you can't get the YouTube link, I can give it to the memory stick. There's 2 big to send via email. But the one thing I can't do, just on the whim, is turn all the devices off, because if we do, we'll end up with about 7 rats in here again. Before we installed these things a year ago, after the flight testing, we had about 7 rats in the kitchen.
No, it's asking me with the YouTube video. It's asking me to sign in for create an account. So I'd have to check with our IT to see whether that's permissible or not. It may fall
Right.
foul of
Okay, fine. I'll put it on a memory stick. And come here and I'll give it to you. Could I post you it? Wouldn't that work? I mean,
yeah, but I'm just thinking about a visit. Leave a visit with me, let me see what I can arrange.
yeah, because while you're here, we can literally go around all the devices. I just show you all of them, because I don't think you've seen everything yet. You can see where they are. You haven't seen the ones at the back gardens. I've got to show you where they are and where they were and stuff like that. You haven't seen the front of your property, haven't you?
And whilst I've been out the back into your neighbour's property and what's been pointed out.
Yeah, but of course, he thinks I've got 7 devices at the front. And he doesn't know what they are, he just thinks they're ultrasonic and they're not. So whatever we pointed out to you might also not be accurate because he doesn't know what they are.
Right.
Because there's little black devices.
I do know that there is at least one device at the front.
Yes.
And yeah, if you just let me finish again, that when you approach the door or in the front area of next door, it does activate. So I don't know whether, if it's on a directional sensor, whether that sensor needs to be changed.
Well, that device is pointing in towards our property, so that should not be possible. And it's surrounded by other foliage and the fence and lots of other stuff, so you shouldn't see anything over there.
So the black device, I think you said it was a pepper fox sensor.
Right. So, the black device mounted above the window, that is a PIR sensor, and that is aimed at where the foxes want to get to the water. So yes, it's a fox sensor. But it's not for foxes, it's a PIR sensor to let me know when the foxes get there.
So what does that activate then?
There's basically a doorbell. It's just an entry sensor. That's what it is. It goes ding dong.
Sorry?
It just goes ding dong. It's a doorbell.
Oh, that just sends a doorbell.
Yeah, but literally it's a doorbell. That's what it is. It's a doorbell activated by motion. That's what it is. So a fox comes to that area and it goes ding dong. The black devices that Jack was interfering with, some of them are anti-snail devices. They smell funny, we don't like it. We're not just on it. The other ones are the water leak sensors for the plants to make sure they don't get flooded. But again, beneficial to some people. So he's pointing out 7 devices to you, and none of them are ultrasonic. So he doesn't know what they are. He just says they're ultrasonic. He doesn't know. Likewise, if he pointed stuff out to you over the fence, he's probably also in that way too, because he doesn't know what they are.
Again, going back to whether anything that may have been pointed out to me, that's fine. He can highlight things to me, but I'll make up my own judgment as to the issue involved.
But unless you know what the devices are, unless you know what the devices are, how can you make a fair assessment?
Well, I was talking about the noise from what they're emitting.
Yeah, the devices which he's been bashing with a stick, those devices. They're not. I go out and find them. Well, he has. I've got it on video. Some of them were moved around, so they're pointing in directions where I did not place them. Some of them have been damaged, so they're making funny noises. I think I've got rid of those ones now. And other ones are just completely smashed. But just because it's pointing in a certain direction doesn't mean that's something I have caused to happen, because he goes around poking things with sticks and bashing things. So if the device is malfunctioning, that's nothing to do with me. It's not how I set it up. I set things up according to the manufacturer's instructions, pointing where they're meant to point, or the settings they're meant to be. But if someone goes around bashing them with sticks and repositioning them without my knowledge, that's not anything to do with me. That's something he's done deliberately in order to cause a nuisance. He's literally complaining about the nuisance he has caused in some regard. If there's a noise going off when they approach their door, that should not be happening. And if it is happening, it's because he's been interfering with my equipment again. If someone interferes with my equipment and it causes a nuisance, how is it right or proper that I then be punished for that?
So, if we were to set up a visit,
Yes.
what cooperation will we get? Because the last visit, we didn't get anywhere.
No, because at the outset, I was very aggravated because you didn't bring equipment with you, as we agreed. And that set us off on a bad foot, and I was also on the heavy doses of diazepam at the time. I will give you whatever cooperation I can reasonably do in order to make this go away. Some things I'm not willing to do, but I'm willing to show you everything in the property.
Okay. Can I bring a colleague?
Yes.
Okay. And what dates would you be free?
Whatever's best for your diary. I've got nothing else planned for. The only thing I've got Sunday afternoon can't do because I've got friends at Shadewood meeting in the woods. I don't know or qualify them, but as far as I'm aware, to the best of my knowledge, everything I sent you is true and accurate.
Right, well, if I have the time to go through all the emails again, at some point I'll highlight those. But like I said, I do have quite a number of other cases that I'm currently dealing with as well.
Yeah, because I'm just worried because I'm blind and dyslexic. I'm worried that some of his inaccuracies are unintentional. So that might be going on as well. That might be part of it. So I'm just concerned about that. And again, to the best of my knowledge, it's all accurate, but there might be some problems with it due to dyslexia or blindness or something. But as far as I know, it's all accurate, so I'm just worried about that.
Right. Alright, well, leave it with me for a moment and I shall I'll see what I can arrange.
Now, I would just like to apologise if I've been rude or insensitive at all. I'm very, very drugged up all the time now because of this aggravation. It's not intentional.
No, but what I want to happen is for the matter to get resolved.
Yep, so do we.
So there isn't constant aggravation for you.
Yeah, well, there's going to be regardless, but that's a different problem. I mean, this won't just go away, it's going to keep doing things, but at least we can make this go away. So we can stop wasting everyone's time on something that's actually a problem. Well, I mean, not what you think it is. I mean, there's another problem maybe, but I don't think it's the problem we're currently talking about. I mean, we've had this...
Is there any compromise that you can come to?
Well, short of letting rats run around our house, no. I mean, before we put these things in last year, we had rats running around the kitchen, which is unsanitary and unsafe. And we had rats chewing the cabling, which is dangerous and a fire risk. So, we need to keep them at bay. And these things are keeping them at bay, apart from one or two.
So, one device in the rear garden that doesn't activate frequently or only activates when there's a pest in the area.
Yeah, which we have.
Right.
Yeah, but possibly.
But then multiple devices would be perhaps unreasonable. Would you not agree?
Yeah, if we had 10 or 20, yeah, that would be totally unreasonable. Get ya. But we need one for foxes and one for the mice and the cats. Because they hear different frequencies, so we need 2 devices. That's why there's 2. That's why they're in sets. That's why we have 2 at the front and 2 at the back. We have in the property what we need in the property to safeguard our safety and the protection of our property. We're not doing it for any other purpose but to make sure that we are safe and the property is safe.
Well, because you just said earlier that you've got one at the front and one at the back.
Currently, yes, because the other ones have been smashed, as I said earlier. Haven't been able to replace them because it's a very expensive business. It's already caused about £200 worth of property damage in the last 2 months for its poking and destruction of property. Right now, yes, we have one at the back and one at the front. But ideally, we have 2 at the front and 2 at the back. One for foxes, one for the cats and the mice, not the rats. And the cat thing is weird because you have people thinking we're feeding their cats because they get GPS signals reflected by the woods. And we have a neighbouring cat who fights with the cat on the other side, so we have this to stop that cat getting to their cat.
So the ones at the back, are they right at the back where where your rear fence would be to stop them getting into the garden in the first place?
Yeah.
Or is it close to the actual house?
No, so we had them in a flower pot about 4 feet beyond the border of the back gate. We've since had to move them because Jack kept smashing them with a stick over the fence. So they're now pointed at a slightly more oblique angle, which isn't really ideal, in a slightly different section further away, but they are at the end of the garden.
At the end of the garden?
Yes. We occasionally bring them back to the top of the garden where the sun is so they can charge them because they're solar powered.
Alright then, like I said, leave
Okay.
the appointment with me and I'll just see what I can do.
Okay, but I just want to look. The thing he did on Sunday is an actual proper nuisance done to deliberately harm, as opposed to what we're talking about is reasonable activity to prevent damage by pests. So the two aren't equatable. The two aren't anyway similar. What we're doing is legal and proper. What he did was a nuisance.
We're just talking generally. If the pest devices was just pinging very intermittently when they needed to, to some degree, that would be okay.
Well,
but
that's what we're doing.
if they were going off repetitively for no reason, then that would be unreasonable. Or they were going off because somebody was in their own garden, their neighbouring garden, then that would be unreasonable.
Yes, it would. I agree. But the point is, that's not happening.
Okay, well that's great then. Then there shouldn't be an issue with them.
No, there isn't. That's the thing. There is no issue with them. I mean, that's exactly the point. This is a nuisance complaint in every sense of the word. We're here talking about a thing which we've had for a year, and only now is suddenly a problem. I mean, why was this not a problem a year ago? I mean, we've had this thing for a year, ever since the flight event. And suddenly it's now a problem. This is not the problem we think it is. Something else is going on. And I think it's a deliberate act of harassment, personally.
So this week it's either be Tuesday, Thursday, or the week after.
Yeah, well, have this Thursday. This Thursday's fine, yeah.
I don't know whether I'll be able to do that.
Okay. Well, just go check your diary and get back to us. Yeah.
Okay, I will do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks for your time.
Bye bye.
Bye.